Welcome to the Recovery Centered podcast, the space for honest conversation about healing, hope, and the journey through mental health and addiction recovery. Each episode, we sit down with people making a difference, from therapists and researchers to change makers and to survivors. Now to explore what recovery really looks like in the world. This podcast is produced in collaboration with Beachway Therapy Center. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another podcast, the Recovery Center. I am your host. My name's Tim Roberto, and I have the honor of having Eric Bricker here today, licensed mental health counselor with a private practice out of Boca. And all I can say, man, is just to keep it real, thank God for people like you. Thank God for people that found their lane, got their education, dedicated themselves to a higher education, licensing, and are plugging away every day, man. I'm honored to be here with you. I really look forward to our recording and see where we're gonna go, because I know the conversation outside was phenomenal and that was just a warm up. So yeah, you want to introduce yourself to everybody?
Didn't you just do that?
Yeah. Oh, you're gonna. Oh, we're gonna. Okay, it's gonna start out like that. I
No.
can run there too.
No. I don't. I'm not looking to start any trouble. I'm not looking to make problems.
I want them to hear your version, not Tim's,
Okay.
because I'll blow you up really nice all day.
I know. I was cool to just leave it there.
Oh, okay.
No, my name is Eric Bricker. I'm a psychotherapist. I work in private practice in Boca Raton. I have worked in agencies for probably 20 some odd years before going into private practice. Do a lot of work with trauma, grief and loss, anger management. I'd say those three things the most.
Mm,
Men, women,
yeah.
young men, young adults, all the way to I have like a lot of retiree type
Yeah.
individuals. So yeah, a little bit of everybody.
That's really interesting that you put that in there. I knew this was going to be a great conversation. You intrigued me. I met Eric through one of my dear friends I've known for gosh, I don't know, 12 years. Yeah. And we met through a mutual friend, and then we did a book signing ceremony for her. And I met you at the first one in Boca, down at the farmer's table. And then I was so intrigued with you and how you handled the whole session, the questions. It was awesome. I was like, man, I'd love to get Trisha up here since I've known her so long. And then I ended up inviting you too, and you knocked it out of the park again. And then just in our side conversations, that we've had, it was, just really intriguing.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I do a podcast as well. It's a Good Counsel podcast. I do that in addition to my private practice. It's a hobby, but it's a labor of love. It's a thing that I do that's fun. And I do a lot of my own editing with that, audio editing and that kind of thing. And it has me listening to a lot of conversations and thinking about what I sound like, the sound of other people. So I've kind of become a little bit of an audiophile through doing that,
Yeah.
because you record an hour of conversation like this. It's, for me, 4 hours of editing where you're listening to people talk over, saying the same things over and over again, and editing it out. So I have become more and more interested in the idea of conversations and listening more keenly to them. I think it makes me a better therapist.
Yeah, 100%.
And it has put me in these situations with Trisha where moderating book panels becomes an option, and you do it. And I'll put myself in any situation like that to test myself and challenge myself. Like, okay, here you are. Here's a group of 4 people, and there's you, and then there's an audience. And what can you do with that? What can you do to put order to this, to make it move linearly? Because you could take 2 really interesting people and put microphones in front of them with no plan or forethought to it, and it could just sound like 2 people doing cocaine at 5 o'clock in the morning, just rambling on incoherently. And is that it might be interesting to them, but it might not be interesting to everybody else who's listening to them, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm really thoughtful about that stuff.
Yeah.
And I like putting myself in these different situations. So
Yeah.
when we talked about me coming on to your podcast, I was really excited to do it. I really liked you. I like meeting you. I think the work that you do with the veterans is incredible.
Yeah. Thank you.
And
Thank you.
you know, that foundation that you're involved with, the walking and raising money
Yep.
and, you know, stomping out the stigma
Yep.
to raise attention to these guys and everything they're struggling with. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
And Beachway, I think is a really great program. I've known about them for years. I've done some work with them in the past, work with Beachway clients in my
Yep.
private practice. I know some of the people that work there. So I have nothing but positive things to say about the organization. I was thrilled to be able to present there.
Yeah.
And so to be on this podcast with you too, it's just a great opportunity. And thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming and thank you for saying yes. You know, it just reiterates, reassures my belief in you that you're a doer, and I think doers, you know, we attract what we know. You know, we just always seem to meet up. It's always, you know, time is patient or life is patient, and you know, it's usually on its time when we meet. You know, you've been around for a few years, I've been around for a few years, but you know, it just didn't connect. But boy, once it connected, man, we came out of the gate pretty good. You know, and I like the way you brought up the and thank you for stomping out the stigma. I'm taking off in a week and a half for 98 miles from Tequesta, Florida, all the way down to Surfside Memorial, where that building collapsed and they recovered 98 people.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
That
but
is a lot of, I don't even like to drive that far sometimes.
tell me about it.
That is a lot of walking.
From the 4th to the 12th.
That's incredible.
But, you know, I know you can understand it. I know our listeners can understand it because I think everybody's born good. You know, we all were born with 100 pieces. And unfortunately, some of our paths take those pieces away. We get a little sidetracked, a little lost. But, you know, it allows me to have a conversation about the mental health aspects for so many people. But for me, first responders, veterans, and in that time frame from the 4th to the 12th. But it's amazing, Eric, how many people pull me aside. You know, all these big, tough, and rough for pull me aside, say thank you for what you're doing. You know, it's really difficult for a lot of us to tell people how we feel, and I get that as a Marine. I get that. You know, I wasn't comfortable with it either, but inside I was spiraling. You know, crumbling. So yeah, thanks for the props. And Beachway, I couldn't agree with you more. I'm in my 7th year there, and I love the work we do too. And I get to meet people like you know, that are crushing it. But I like the way you said you stay focused. It's like a for me and some of my deficiencies is sometimes you know if I'm not in the front row or second front row, I'm kind of all over the place. I need like third row and back. I kind of get lost. I'm afraid I need to be in the front row. So I can, you know, moderating 4 different people or 5 people. I think the last panel was what, 2, 5, 6. I mean, that's a lot of focus, a lot of concentration.
I'll tell you where it all shifted for me with that stuff. I started doing this podcast. A friend of mine showed me how to work all of the audio, very simple audio. It's called Audacity. So it's a program you record into a computer with using an interface on 2 channels, kind of like this,
Yeah.
but this is a much more sophisticated studio set.
Yeah.
And I'm recording these 2 channels, and then you do the editing afterwards. And so I'm spending a lot of time listening to myself talk to other people. And when I'm talking, I feel like I'm articulate, right? I
Yeah.
always believed that I was articulate. I could communicate an idea fluidly,
Yeah.
and all of these different things about myself. And then I listened to myself back through the editing of this recording I did. And I was doing things like I would start a sentence and in the middle of a sentence, just decide I wanted to say a different sentence. And it's like that sentence would end and then a new one would start. And it sounded crazy. It just sounded like there was something.
Oh man.
And I know what it was.
Yeah.
My mind is moving faster than my mouth.
Correct.
And part of it is the distraction and being overwhelmed by what's around you.
Yeah.
So even in an
Yeah.
environment like this, because it's not home, it's the lighting,
Yeah.
it's the lights, it's the
Yeah.
fact that there's a monitor in front of us
Yeah.
where I could see myself, it's you.
Yeah.
And you can get lost in all of that for a second, any one of these distractions.
Dude, that's so deep, man. I think I just did that like 4 minutes ago. I think I went on a bit of a run on. I was trying to bring it back a little bit, but I'm thinking I'm going all over the place. I'm still out in the parking lot before we got into the building.
Right, right.
I'm trying to catch up with that because that was really cool, man. That was deep.
Well, and so what I'm always trying to remember is it doesn't matter what's going on around you. The most important thing is the person that's in front of you.
Mm,
That's the most important thing. And if you start to lose track of that, you're losing everything.
yeah, yeah,
So I try to be more focused on the
yeah,
interactions I have with people. And I
yeah,
think that doing this, the podcast, and you're putting myself in these awkward positions where I'm moderating a
yeah,
a discussion about someone's book, all of these different things just helps me stay focused on the person in front of me.
yeah, yeah,
Because when you think about being on a stage like that, these are 4 or 5 in that case, really accomplished people
yeah,
who are accomplished in different ways. You
yeah,
have, Craig Robinson,
yeah,
he's an attorney, he's a very popular, accomplished guy.
yeah,
You have Trisha there, she's an author. You there, you're in a completely different lane
yeah,
because you're the one who's doing the advocacy work for the military guys
yeah,
and organizing these walks and not-for-profit
yeah,
things.
yeah.
You know, um,
And Kim,
yeah, Kim Litton,
yeah,
also an author
yeah,
and very active on social media, and she's involved in sex addictions,
yeah,
which is another kind of area of trauma. So
yeah,
you have all of these different people
yeah,
who are in these different lanes,
yeah.
uh, you know,
Interesting, right? Like,
right. So yeah, that was Kim,
yeah,
Trisha, Craig, yourself, and me.
and um, the other woman there at Boca.
Oh my God, Jill Burchard.
Jill, yeah,
So, damn,
yeah,
I knew I was leaving somebody out.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, Jill is a friend of mine. She just started a podcast
yeah,
herself,
yeah,
um, called the Present Moment Project, which is really a tribute to her husband who
yeah.
passed away by suicide years ago. And that was an idea that he had that he never got to
No,
execute because he
okay.
had terminal illness.
Yeah.
So she's now carrying that forward, and we
Ah,
just did
how cool is
an
that?
episode of that together for her, and I think she's going to do very well
Yeah,
with that.
yeah. She's a natural.
She is.
It's like for her, it's kind of like it's great getting an education. I think knowledge is wonderful, and for some reason, this life gives us the ability to do that until we take our last breath.
Yeah.
It's wonderful, right? Even though it's killing us a day at a time, it still allows us to be like the best version of ourselves. It's kind of like almost like the most courteous murderer I know.
Yeah.
But I've never had a professor teach me heart, and Jill's got a lot of heart.
Yeah.
A lot of heart, man, and I think that the wonderful combination. She's obviously a bright woman, and that heart, and her unfortunate situation, and life's, turbulent times and unfortunate. Boom, she's amazing. I think it's gonna crank.
I'm sure that it will. I'm
Yeah.
sure that it will.
How long have you been doing yours now?
It's like started in the pandemic, so
Uh,
probably 5 years. I'm not always consistent with it.
uh,
There are months at a time where I just don't do anything
gotcha.
because a lot of it was me. I've been a little more consistent in the last couple of years. I
Yeah.
hired a producer, so we go into
Oh,
we
wow.
go into a studio set up somewhat like this, and
Yeah. Uh,
recording and doing the video element of it, which is a newer thing for me.
yeah, cool.
And then
Uh,
I still record some audio ones in my office as well.
do you find podcasting, personally or professionally, like a way of process? You consider a process? I mean, obviously it's a process, but would you consider it like almost like an individual or just two people communicating? Like, is that therapeutic? You think?
Yeah, it can be. I'm often very pleased and surprised and excited about what comes out of it.
Yeah,
And listening back to that, especially if I'm doing my own editing,
yeah,
or you listen back when you get it back from the producer after they've edited, and it's exciting often to hear how certain subjects were handled and what you
Mm.
got from the other person that you interviewed. And when it's fluid and it sounds good, and you can say to yourself, I accomplished what I set out to accomplish. Like I got from that person
Yeah.
what I hoped to get from
Yeah.
that person.
Yeah.
And they were every bit as interesting
Yeah.
as I thought or hoped they might be.
Yep.
That's the best.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. I like the way you put it like that too. Like you didn't, you didn't come to a conclusion. And then when we plan the out, like it's okay to plan, but when we plan the outcome, I think that's where we get kind of rough around the edges sometimes because things happen. But I like the way you put how I hope they would be. Like that gives you that freedom too, you know?
Well, the whole thing is an exercise in curiosity, right? So you
Yeah.
know the person, but it's not scripted. You're not taking them exactly where it's meant to go
Yeah.
because otherwise you're not satisfying any curiosity. You're just reiterating what you already know.
Yeah.
And that's not interesting. The interesting part is the discovery of what the person might say under those
Yeah.
circumstances, what they might reveal to you,
That's awesome.
and how that might strike me and what I might experience in
Yeah.
that moment. And then the challenge of being able to keep it together, to keep that thread moving without interrupting it with some stupid story of mine. We're like, the same thing happened
Yeah.
to me one time, Tim. And then just blow it because I just start ranting and then forget what we were talking about.
Yeah, boy, ain't that the truth?
So that's why I'm always trying to focus on paying attention,
Yeah.
to what we're
Yeah.
talking about.
I'm not like I don't know, man. I'd never get attracted to like that scripted stuff.
It doesn't work.
I'm a next. I like authenticity. I like just two people, in this case, two dudes just shooting it, seeing what comes out of it. You have a passion, I have a passion. You put two passions together, and I think that's an incredible conversation because, um, you know, my goal is to reach that one person. I'm not in the business of outcomes. I'm in the business of the message, and if I can keep that as my priority, my odds I feel are in my favor, or just a process that's good overall to help that one person. Like that one person helped me, find a way out of a totally unmanageable life, totally with alcoholism and addiction. And then my mental health. I mean, that was never my primary, but when I didn't use, I didn't like how I felt. I mean, it's not acute mental health, but it's still, a mental health issue. I was uncomfortable, like, getting a little, somebody catch eyes with somebody, be like, yeah, you got a problem? Or how you doing? I'm fine. Jeez, I'm just saying hello, like say maybe a lot of alcoholics are like, why don't you have a drink? I like you better when you're drinking, so that one guy changed my whole life.
So let me ask you this. When you think about the person you used to be and the person you are today, there are thousands of people who are coming down to South Florida every day in hope of, achieving that sort of experience in the mecca of recovery here or the penal colony of South Florida or whatever whatever we're saying about this place and the behavioral health industry here at any given time. So we like to think of it as the mecca of recovery because there are people who've come from all these places with these horrible situations and achieve life beyond their imagination of
Yeah.
what could be possible.
Yeah.
So for you, what's the thing? Like what helped you turn the corner? Is it one thing? Is it a
Yeah.
relationship? Or is it many things in a process over time?
Well, many things that processed over time, but the deciding, the tell-all moment for me was my pain outgrew my fear. My pain outgrew my fear because prior to that, part of my addiction, my alcoholism was, I lived a fear-based life. And as long as I was living a fear-based life, I made fear-based decisions. And as long as I was making fear-based decisions, they only kept creating more fear. So it's like I couldn't get out of the drain. I could stop easy peasy, Eric. Easy. Another unfortunate situation, another shit show. I didn't get arrested much, but another arrest, blah, blah, blah. it just, you know, it just kept leading to the drain. So
That's a profound statement.
what?
The pain outgrew the fear.
Uh,
Is that your own thing, or
yeah.
is that something that other people say?
Like I was talking before we came into the studio with you, I'm ratcheting down on 19 years. So specifically say that, I'm not sure, but I've been saying it a lot because, when you start coming up on the amount of time I have, I heard it even after 2 years. What happened? What do you think happened? I love when people like, what do you think? I know exactly what happened, man. My pain outgrew my fear. I was willing to do whatever guys like you told me to do.
So the thing about that is I had worked in addictions treatment for like maybe 18, 19 years, something like that, before going out on my own, and then consulting in treatment centers after that. So it's a long time.
Yeah.
And because I'm not a recovering person, everything I learned about like Alcoholics Anonymous, 12-step recovery, what's in the AA book, big book, what
Yeah.
people experience in meetings, what people experience in the 12-step process, I had to learn from
Yeah.
other people.
Yeah.
And so I learned from people that I worked with, these sponsors with 20 years of recovery who were techs in treatment centers or therapists in treatment centers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I had to be really cognizant of statements and quotes and slogans like that,
Yeah.
because that's what gave me an understanding of what the process was moving from active
Yeah.
alcoholism and addiction into recovery, and what distinguished recovery and serenity from being a dry drunk, and all these different nuanced
Yeah.
things that you really, really want to know
Yeah.
if you're working with this population of people. And so I thought I'd heard most of the slogans or quotes
Yeah.
because I have an ear for it. I'm always listening for that. But
Yeah.
that one that you said, that the pain outgrew the fear, I don't think I've heard someone say that one
Oh, I
specifically.
love that.
And I'm thinking to myself, that must be original to him or his sponsorship family, because that's not a thing that everybody says.
Yeah, I mean, I might have mixed maybe over the years, but
People say
I'm
when the pain gets bad enough,
yeah.
or you'll be willing when you've suffered enough and the
Yeah.
pain. I've heard a lot of that, but
I think
not.
I've stumbled a lot on a lot of things too, because I'm a counselor. I'm not a therapist. I'm an addictions counselor, and I facilitate groups. And I notice, a lot. People say, "No, I've never heard that." And what I always ask them is, "I want you I want answer me this: has anybody specifically asked you who the messengers were in your life?" And 99% or high 90s, whatever, people go, no. And it just blows my mind. I don't know if that's a mixture of, the experience. Like you, I'm a listener. I learn better listening and retaining than I do visually. I'm not a really visual learner. Um,
I've never stopped and thought who the messengers were in my life either.
yeah. And they go, no. And I say, did you grow up in a critical parenting home? Did you grow up in a narcissistic home? Did you
Okay.
grow up in a perfection focused driven home? Those are your like who read you the book of life? When you went to school, did daddy take you down to the lake to fish? But when you got home from school, your whole world was completely different. Like who were who showed you the book? Who read you the book of life? And then, when they go, oh my God, I never thought about that. And I said, so does alcoholism run in the family? Was your dad perfection focused? Was your mom critical? Who was not emotionally, and they're like, oh my God, I never heard of it like that. So, when you got a winner, you got a winner, and I asked that one a lot.
Well, it's interesting because I've had so much, folks. I've had probably like 8 different therapists in the course of my lifetime of work that I've done, in addition to participating in these other programs
Yeah.
for self-development. If you work in this kind of a industry or field, you really have to do a lot of that stuff, or you'll become you'll become weird. You become like a bizarre.
Become mush.
Yeah, you just become bizarre and start doing weird things. So
I do.
it'll lend you, so like you'll lose your spirit. You'll just be burnt out.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
walking around in the parking lot talking to yourself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Laughing
Yeah.
inappropriately.
And you're just this close to answering yourself, too.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't need anyone else. I can just have the whole conversation by myself. Um, but the idea of messengers, like who are the messengers in your life, and thinking about that
Yeah.
as the architects of where you got information.
Yeah.
It's a good statement,
Yeah.
and I've not heard it put that way.
Yeah.
Who are the messengers in your life? Because I'm like,
Yeah.
messengers for what?
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh no, you're messengers for how to be. It's a
Some
succinct way of saying something that
Yeah.
I would probably say in a much longer format, like when you're kind
Yeah.
of dissecting someone's childhood
Yeah.
and non-nurturing
Yeah.
experiences and who their parents were and what was modeled for them and all that.
Yeah, over the years, I've heard Timonisms. Hey, what Timonisms are we gonna do today?
Oh, so people know you by these
In a way, yeah.
things.
Well, like clients, because I still do groups. I have the honor and the privilege of doing a couple groups a week, substance abuse group. So, when you have somebody of twice a week, so 45 days, 60 days,
Okay.
you know,
So pain and fear is a Timonism.
I think so.
Who are your messengers is a Timonism.
100%.
Give me a couple more, man.
Uh,
I want to know.
it's a different kind of hard.
Is it? Okay.
Recovery's a different kind of hard.
Difficult in a different way. Yeah.
Correct.
It's a different.
You have to start doing what you don't want to do. People I say struggling, people will give me an answer, and I'm like, you know what, man, you might as well just go out in that parking lot and herd cats. I don't know. I just come up with these things over the years, and but then when we established that messenger thing, I said, I want to know if I was working with you, I would want to know what created their message, who were the messengers in their life. You follow me? So it's like, and I say things like, anybody can make a baby unless there's a medical condition.
Yeah.
Actually, I said it's probably one of the easiest things to do. Actually, it's so easy, most of us do it with our eyes closed. And the group goes, ha, 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 ha. I say, that's nice, nice lead in. But then I get, bring it back around, right? But what I really want to start talking about with other adults is not everybody can be a mom or a dad. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful, far from it. I would never disrespect anybody's parents or any parent. It's really inappropriate. It's unprofessional. Personally, it just doesn't jive with my moral compass, right? And we're not doing that because they're operating on what was given them. Just like, I heard what was given you, and it really wasn't that nice. So it's like, it's not your fault. It's your programming kind of stuff.
Do you watch the show Landman?
Nah.
Okay. It's really good. It's, Taylor Sheridan. He's the one that did Yellowstone, and he produces all these television shows, streaming shows for Paramount. He's very, very good. He makes incredible television.
Nice.
Probably about like 5 or 6 different series of his that I watch. I'm just fully in on everything he does.
Yeah.
So he's got this show Landman. It's about the oil industry in West Texas, and I can go on about the theme of the show, but that's not the point.
Yeah.
The point is that the main guy in the show is Billy Bob Thornton.
And I know.
Who's an amazing actor.
Yeah,
And he plays the main landman in the show, the guy who kind of develops and oversees
the big dog.
The big dog. Under the money people, he's the guy, he's the boots on the ground big dog.
Yeah.
So he's the one who has to fight with the cartels that have stuff going on, in those areas.
Yeah,
He's the one who has to deal rough and tumble stuff, but also dealing with billionaires. And so comes from a rough place. And so in this last episode we're watching, he's driving in a truck with his son, who is in a relationship with a woman who's got a kid. And they're coming from Billy Bob Thornton's dad at a assisted living facility. And they don't have a good relationship. And the dad is played by Sam Elliott. Sam Elliott.
Old
He's
school.
Yeah, he's the voice of like Chevy trucks and
Dodge Ram.
Yeah, he's that guy.
He's that guy.
He's everybody's like he's the archetype of everybody's angry dad.
Yeah.
And so they have one of those angry dad moments, and you could tell it reveals a lot about the way Billy Bob Thornton was raised without them really talking about it a whole lot. So Billy Bob Thornton is driving away in the truck with his own son, who just watched for the first time an interaction between his father and his father's father. And Billy Bob Thornton says, you know, um, everybody be mindful of what you think about your dad and the way that you were raised, because you're going to raise your own kid the same way you were raised,
100%.
and your kid's going to think about you the way you think about your father. And it was one of those, Taylor Sheridan writes really good, profound stuff.
Almost makes me think it came from a personal.
Everything with him is like that. So he puts in this dialogue, and then you hand it to someone like Billy Bob Thornton
to
and
bring it to
Sam
life.
Elliott to create this moment that's like something therapy, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm like, whoa. So it's, you know, Sam Elliott is being Sam Elliott. Billy Bob Thornton's driving away with his son, and then they have this moment in the car. And the kid turns around to Billy Bob Thornton and he goes, well, Dad, I know you did the best you could, and that was good enough for me. And it was a real like moment. Billy Bob Thornton, whose character never gets emotional about anything, he's crying a little bit in the truck. And then they start diverting the conversation away because they're so uncomfortable. He's like, hot day today. It's literally because he can't tolerate the emotions.
Funny.
But that thing about be mindful of how you felt about your father, because someday your kid is going to think about you in the same way that you thought about your dad.
That's deep.
It is.
Yeah, holy cow! I never looked at it like that.
I wouldn't have either.
That's
had
a
I
great
heard
share.
But you're always. I know what the flaws were in our home. And I'm very cognizant of it as a person who's had a lot of therapy and does therapy with other people. And I have a son. And I remember what I would think of my father and during the times when everything was work, and there wasn't time for me. Or the abruptness and the impatience and like nothing. So when you said, did your dad take you fishing or all that kind of stuff? The answer was no, he was up, but because he was always working. So I took myself fishing, and that's where you learn like horrible habits about just,
oh heck yeah,
12-year-olds experimenting with wildlife. I don't know about you, Tim, but I shamefully I killed a lot of things.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I grew up in the woods.
And you just blowing up things with firecrackers. It's I hope no one who hears this would think less of me, but it is what little boys do unsupervised.
Yeah, you got a 12-year-old brain that's still pretty much fairly underdeveloped. Like you're doing the best with what you got, man.
Yeah, I
There
don't.
might be a little frustration behind it too, maybe, like
Probably.
like did your dad would you consider him a workaholic or?
Yeah, he didn't. I don't think he had a choice. I really don't.
Gotcha.
He worked in retail during this period of time, the 80s, the 90s. You were really at the behest of these corporations that would come in, buy out a company, and whatever the economy was doing, that's what retail does. So you only have so much power. And if you are the regional vice president over a bunch of these retail stores
up there,
and you guys have a bad holiday season, and it just may be you doing the best you can, and it just was what it was in terms of the economy.
In that position he gets the brunt of it, right?
You live and die by that, and so it took a lot out of him. He had multiple heart attacks. He was a stressed out guy in a tough industry. And I know things about that now that I didn't know then, so I look at it differently. At that time, I was angry because he never really had time for me. And when he did, it was usually because I was in trouble for something, and he tended to be kind of impatient. But I know at the same time, like he was just doing the best that he could.
Did it make you feel kind of like you were invisible as a kid? Like,
in a
like
way,
you didn't have that emotional connection, kind of, or were you pissed at him or pissed at his job because, like work was more important than you? Did you ever go that rabbit hole or?
I was more of a turn inward kind of person.
Just kept it in.
Yeah, well, I just was like, well, I'm not that great. Like I don't do anything that well. Like I'm not that great at school or not really particularly great at sports. So I'm not giving them a lot to work with. And I have two older siblings who, through their own dramas and whatever, took up a lot of room.
Yeah.
And then he had my mom and his work. So I was the last, I was the youngest. And I think there just wasn't like a lot of room for me
Yeah, I gotcha.
in his psyche. I think he did the best he could
With what he had at that
made
time, right?
and the thing was always like make sure they're provided for.
Yeah.
That was always the thing. And he did all of that. We had everything we needed,
Same with my dad. Just the lack of emotional, uh, abundance, or maybe not abundance, just that emotional security wasn't there for me. My dad was a doctor in Manhattan, came over from Italy in 1953. They grew up in hard times. He was a boy. You had Mussolini and Hitler as a young man, and World War One, then World War Two, and
Did he actually emigrate from like fascist Italy under Mussolini?
well, he was born in 1919, so I would have to warm up for that question and read some
Yeah,
some of the dates.
that was during World War II.
Yeah, he was World War II. So my dad was an 8-year-old boy, and when his parents immigrated out of Italy because it was really poor. I think it was a lot of turmoil back then. So
Yeah.
1919 up to what 1928, because he was 8. They went to London, England. A lot of Italians were going there.
Well, it was a fascist country, so people were being persecuted. It was
Yeah.
he had no rights.
Yeah, and then he's one of 8, but his dad had a little grocery store in London. But when it came time for the schooling and education, my dad was the one that was picked out of the 8. They sent him back to Italy. So now he's a young boy, and now World War II is in, and he had like Italian residency or citizenship and British residency, or so I forgot which one it was. But there was a certain point where he had to have 2 sets of papers on him, so like the trauma and all this stuff. And I think in the and I'm a Catholic. I'm not going to bash Catholicism at all, but with the unfortunate situations that happened there for a long time, I don't know. Maybe something happened with my father because he went to all Catholic. He had a whole upbringing, with the monks and the priest, and so I don't know, because my dad was emotionally absent and he was an angry kind of guy. He didn't know how to express his feelings. I'm one of 5 boys. So he came from that hard life. He was doing his residency at the Italian hospital in London, met my mom, this English woman. So he came to Brooklyn in 53 because no Italians came to Brooklyn back then.
I'm like,
I'm being a wise.
I'm like, I thought all the Italians came to Brooklyn back then.
That's what I'm doing.
Didn't you see The Wanderers?
and then my mom waited a year for him to get like situated and licensed, blah blah blah. Gotcha. She came in 54. But same thing. Excellent provider. Just emotionally, man. Because then he became like the medical director for American Express, and then that just put more responsibilities, more oversight.
What an incredible
The guy was amazing.
Accomplishment.
The guy was amazing.
Yeah, he sounds like just a brilliant.
He was phenomenal. He used to read the encyclopedia, the old school encyclopedias. It was one of his favorite things to do. Read the Times, New York Times, the entire weekend.
I feel like there are sometimes people who intellectually are on that other level that seem to have the most difficulty just getting along with regular people.
Yeah, but like he was really respected too. Like he was a personal physician for two CEOs of American Express, Howard Clark and James Robinson. Like I remember those days,
Sure. So people like that, to me, not that we're going to turn this into a therapy session about your parents, but people like that, I've known people like that, and they can do really, really incredible in these structured interactions where it's like, okay, I'm your personal physician and I'm the best, and you're an important man, and I'm going to make sure that you have implicit trust of me on every single thing because I can be totally focused intensely on you for a couple of hours. And then and this guy trusted your father with his life, and he had access to whatever physician he wanted. And then come home and just maybe not have the bandwidth to be able to extend to my kids.
I'm one of 5 boys.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? Imagine coming home at 5 kids.
I'll say, like, my father and I kind of caught up later on.
Yeah, me too.
And as I got older and became an adult myself, married, had a kid, I started to understand him better, and he retired and softened a little bit, and there was a lot of really good room for connection there.
Same experience.
And he really became like a friend and a mentor in that way. We were able to review everything from all these different times in history, and not in a necessarily therapeutic way, just in trying to, hey, we have some lost time to make up for it, because we just missed out on some stuff along the way. And part of that was my withdrawal from him, and whatever thing I was into.
Yeah, we play a role in it too.
Sure. I definitely did.
Yeah.
You want to hear something really funny?
Yeah.
So like every other therapist from some dysfunctional home, I did the thing. It's such a cliche. It's embarrassing, but it's a funny story. So I go to therapy. I decide I finally want to, I always wanted to be a therapist. Now I'm going to do it, right? So my 4th year of undergraduate school, I switched from like business to psychology, all in on this thing. Worked at a United Cerebral Palsy group home, whatever I could do to kind of catch myself up. Go to graduate school, get a master's degree. I'm in therapy myself. I'm learning about myself. I'm learning about other people. I'm working in the field. And now I'm ready to confront my parents, right? Now I'm ready to confront my parents. So I have this conversation with my dad. I'm like, Dad, I thought you were unreasonably hard on me and kind of impatient and not very nice. I don't think I used the word emotionally abusive. That wouldn't have gone over well. And I don't know if that word would have counted in the way it would today. Like our definition of that was just parenting. He was just maybe a little impatient. But I got on him about it, and I told him how I felt, and I had my confrontation with my dad, and you know what he says to me?
What?
He said, "You know what, Eric? You're right. The truth of the matter was, by the time you came along, I just lost my patience with little kids. Sorry."
Oh my God.
That's what he said.
Well, talk about keeping it real.
And I'm like, but you know what? The level of honesty with that. I was cool with that answer. I mean, it closed a lot of windows for me.
I love that.
I was like, okay. I mean, that's,
like you can understand that.
Yeah. Because he said part of the conversation was, someday you're going to have a kid yourself. You'll understand what I'm talking about. It's rough out there.
Was he right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's hard.
It can be hard sometimes. 100%.
And we live in, a country where we have the most, really, and still raising a family and the pressures that you experience financially and working in these different places is hard. I worked in treatment for a long time, which in administration too, like I was a clinical director, I was a program administrator. Those are hard jobs.
They
You
are.
feel a lot of pressure there, dealing with difficult people. So,
that includes the staff, right?
oh, it is the staff. It's a staff. It's the patient.
It's like you got the patients, then you got the staff.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, everybody's kind of finding their way. I think that most people who are working in behavioral health are here. We kind of stumbled into it because we are working on something or have worked through something, or most people are doing that. So,
For sure.
I'm one of them, and I think most of us are in some way or another.
I think we're all in recovery from something. It's just different, different things experience. Some people are alcohol, some people are drugs, some people are eating their feelings, some people are sexually acting out their feelings, some people are recovering from severe depression or moderate depression, I don't know, this recovering from being disconnected their whole life. Now they're working on how to connect. Like, I think everybody's recovering from something, man. It seems like.
All right, so here's the thing about people working in the field and the recovering from something, right? Do you remember the Purdue oven stuffer roaster that had the little button that popped when the turkey was cooked?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we're like the turkey. When we come in with these issues and we got to go into the oven and we got to kind of cook, until the thing pops. And when the thing pops, you're ready to be served to other people. You know, you don't have raw turkey in there, right? So you're not going to poison everybody. And I think some people go into the field and start working with other people before the thing pops. And when they do that, they're serving out a lot of like a lot of raw chicken to people.
On the pink side, huh?
Yeah. And so, you know, your involvement with me, which is supposed to be healing, actually ends up giving you salmonella.
Yeah, you get even sicker than you were.
Yes. Yeah. So that's my theory about it.
I love it. You know, you made me think about, man, I like the way you think, man. We're kind of in that same. You made me think, like, isn't it crazy the stuff that we trust?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, we don't question any. Like, we walk up to a water fountain and just drink it. Like, how do I know somebody? Like the thermometer thing, like, ping. No one ever has to, you know, you never think once, wow, was it really good? Like, should I get a thermometer, like a digital or whatever thermometer, you know? Like, how do I know it's not defective? Like, it's telling me it's good. Like, you know, like, okay, it popped. It must be good. Like, but then other things, especially when we're trying to get well or we're working with a therapist like you, there's all kinds of excuses. You know, like, so God forbid, emergency comes up, fire rescue, you know, EMS shows up, they take you to the hospital, you're freaking out, you know, maybe you woke up one morning, a big lump on your throat. Oh my God, you know, you go to the hospital and oh my God, man, gonna be all right. Well, let us do our process of elimination. We'll tell you in a little bit, you know, we got to do some blood work, blah, blah, blah. And then the doctor comes back. Okay, I think we're good. I think we figured it out. Oh my God. So I'm gonna, yeah, you're gonna be okay, but you're gonna have to do this, that, and we're so compliant. You don't even know these people, but you listen to then you go to a therapist for help, and the therapist is dissecting the situation, trying to piece it together, kind of like throws the puzzle up in their head, talking with the patient, with the client, and you know, starts putting the pieces together. And sometimes they can be so resistant. They don't follow anything. Even though you just dissected them, you've been a master at this for a really long time, you know, blah, blah. Isn't it crazy? Like the things we pick and choose, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
It is. It is and it isn't, right? Because people's minds, I think, work in a particular type of way. And so with therapy, I am mindful of any type of advice or direction or influence I give. And sometimes I'll put it out there just to see how they respond to the idea of that,
Gotcha.
because it'll tell you a lot about the personality. And what I'm more interested in is how they're responding to that. Because what I've discovered a long time ago, and it changed the way that I look at therapy or counseling or the whole profession, the advice that people follow is generally the advice that to do the thing they were probably going to do anyway. You know, that's what most people are really looking for more. It's more of a confirmation bias. People tend to follow the advice of what it was they were already planning or thinking about doing. Once you come up against that, that's where the conversation starts. And that's where you really, from my point of view, you're coming up, you got to approach it with more curiosity than sense of expertness. Because if I allow myself to get into some kind of debate with a person, what I'm probably doing is recreating some sort of passive aggressive resistant structure to their relationship with one of their parental figures that was like overly controlling, overly influential in some way. And that's where you kind of lose people.
So your approach is kind of like it's their due process. I'm going to just put some things out there so to complement their due process. I can't shove anything down somebody's throat or disrespect.
Absolutely. And I will, and that's where the podcasting thing, it kind of helps move the momentum of that. Cause I'll start with it's almost like an episode. It's like an introduction. It's like, I'm like, okay, Tim, you know, we're going to be working together. So here's what I want you to know. I'm going to come at you with a lot of different things today because I'm going to ask you questions and I'm going to throw you feedback. And that's designed to help us get on the right track because I'm trying to figure out where the issues were and where the stuck points are. My experience is that people tend to prefer when these things move quickly, but it might be unlike other therapy you've had. Because, you know, traditional therapy, you do a lot of staring at the therapist for a couple of weeks until the guy says anything. And most people I know don't really like that. So I said, we're gonna move this along quick. I'm gonna give you a lot of stuff to think about. But here's the thing. I need to rely upon you to tell me what you actually agree with, what works, what assimilates into your thinking, or where I'm wrong. I need you to rely on that. And I need you to be comfortable with the idea of telling me that we disagree, right? That you disagree or you don't think that's actually how it was.
Because that's fair.
Yeah, so I need you to be cool with the fact that I may throw a lot of things at you, but I want, because that'll help us get where we need to go.
Yeah, it helps both of you adjust your sales, kind of, right? Like,
right.
The course, change course.
Because here's where that gets interesting, is when you're working with someone for a little bit, and then you get into, you know, a later time where you discover that the thing they sort of agreed was going on isn't really going on, and it's a different thing. And it comes like, well, let me ask you something, because I know we talked about this before. Why don't you just go along with it? You just go along with that because I said so? You just went along. Like, why wouldn't you tell me you thought that was wrong when I said that? Like, what were you thinking when I said that? You know?
Yeah. Is there any particular path you take? Like, is that a fair question? Like, like even before you meet the person, like you do, I guess, assessment. You do an assessment kind of thing.
When anyone calls on me, I spend a bit of time with them on the phone.
Initially, out of the gate,
I try to. I try to. So I'll usually return those phone calls, like inquiry calls, on my way home from work, or on the way to, because I like to have that conversation then. When there's like nothing going on, and I'll call back and I'll be like, "Oh, hey, Dana, how are you? This is Eric Bricker. I'm just returning your call from today. So tell me a little bit," and they'll come. Sometimes they'll come right at you, and they'll just be like, "Yeah, I'm hoping to plan a new client in session and whatever." And you can just kind of close it out. Then, all right, we'll book you. But I don't do that. I'm like, well, let me ask you, like, who referred you? How'd you find out about me? Was it Google, or you referred from a friend, or was it a treatment center and gave you my name? Where's that? And then it's like, okay. And do you know why they gave you my name in particular? Or why you picked it out of a Google of all the people that popped up? Why'd you pick me in particular? Like, what was it you saw that was interesting to you specifically? Because there's always a reason.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, because there's a million people in there. You can get someone younger and better looking. You know what I mean? Like, why? So why are we doing this? And so you get answers to those questions, and then it's like, well, what's going on? What are you hoping to work on? You know, and then just a little as specific as I can to get an idea of who this is.
So, like, safety and comfortability is the initial goal, and right?
Yeah,
curiosity, safety,
and but more than that, I want to build in, like, I'm building in my own investment. That like, okay, I'm interested in you.
Like, am I appropriate for this person?
Yeah,
is that what I'm hearing? Kind of like,
well,
like, you know,
and also the buy-in of, like, that I'm interested in
Gotcha.
you. And, like, I want to be interested. I'm making myself interested in the person.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Because once I have, like, once that clicks in and I'm interested in what's going on there, they become somebody to me. And then I'm like, okay, you're my client now. You know, it's just like a mental shift that happens. And you know, and some people that has to happen a little slowly, because some people won't have that conversation with me. Some people are just waiting for them to ask them questions. And so it's like a long conversation that I have to end it, you know. But
some people are like, a half hour later, you're still going, right?
well, and it you know, and it shows you that they're anxious to have an opportunity to talk. And I'm like, oh, this is great. This person is really excited about this, and I hope I've made them more excited about the possibility that, yeah, you're going to come in and we're going to get your needs met. Well, I'm going to hear all about this stuff.
Awesome.
I'm interested in it. I want to try to help you with these things, you know. So, but I try to spend time with people on the phone when they call, because it's sort of like a mini rapport building process, and also feeling out, like, how they got there, and is this something that's likely to work out? Because sometimes you get someone who's showing up with a sharp stick pointed at their back or something,
Yeah.
and you can tell they're not really into it.
Yeah.
And if they don't really want to do it, I usually would recommend that they, contact somebody else.
Yeah, and that's a wonderful approach too. I think most people know when they jive with somebody too,
Yeah.
and when they don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's wonderful. Hey, I could talk to you probably for another hour, hour and a half, but I think we're getting to that point in the cast. We gotta start wrapping it up.
We just got started,
I,
Tim. What are you talking about?
no kidding, right? My internal clock is going, Tim. I think you're probably around an hour. So. Um, just for that one person that may not have caught the first part, for whatever reason, catches the last part. LMHC,
Yeah.
many years now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Private practice, Boca,
Yes.
specialties, areas of concentration.
So it's really like four.
Okay.
One is grief and loss and complicated grief. So I deal with a lot of people who have had experienced like suicide deaths in their family or
Mm,
drug overdose deaths. So it's like that grief and loss where it intersects with trauma.
okay.
So I'm an EMDR therapist. So I work with a lot of people who've had complicated losses in their life.
Yeah.
I do a lot of anger management work, people who are just, dealing with anger.
Yeah.
Um, and I work with people with substance use disorders. I work with couples,
Mm,
so it sounds like a wide range of different things, but it's really kind of not, because a lot of times they're the same people.
mm,
So you think about, someone who's been living down here, long-term recovery, um, complicated relationship with spouse or family, a lot of anger problems,
yeah.
and, the trauma,
Uh,
and a lot of losses along the way.
it's like they all feed each other, man.
Right. So
Ugh,
so each one of those things is often a compartment of
yeah.
work that with the same individual.
Yeah. And if you don't know what EMDR is, I strongly suggest you look it up and just educate yourself out of it, because I hear, and I'm sure Eric hears a lot too, like, well, tell me about that. Why do you treat yourself a certain way? I don't know. I don't know. So my philosophy today is, if I can help somebody learn to know, I can only imagine what would happen to that person's world if they began to know. So look it up. It's a fascinating process. I know Eric and I know his capabilities, and if it gets your attention or it grabs you, reach out to them. How would they do that?
All my stuff is on my website. It's ericbricker.lmhc.com. My podcast, the Good Counsel Podcast, is on there. All my credentialing and inquiry forms to reach out. So you can
Yeah.
get me there. ericbricker.lmhc.com.
Awesome. I'm Tim Roberto. You can find me all over social media. You can find me out and about if you happen to be in the Palm Beach County area. If not, I'll come to your area. I can be reached at tim.r@beachway.com. So between Eric and I, or ask me, I'll get in touch with Eric for whatever. Um, yeah. So awesome podcast. I knew it was going to be just by how we spoke out before we got into the studio outside. And thank you for coming. Very grateful for your wisdom and your intellect, and your very unique process. You got a great processor, man, and I love the way you express it. It's very intriguing, and it's kind of like captivating, really.
Well,
And
thank you.
yeah, yeah,
I don't
you
know if
guys.
I've ever been called captivating before, but
Yeah,
I like it. I like it.
you got some skills, man, for sure. I'm
Thank you.
really glad you're moving it in the arena that you're in for people like me that struggled for so long, and I'm very grateful for that. And I until then, I always wish my audience peace and love.
I just want to say, thank you so much for having me. And I really like your studio here. It's very nice.
Mm, thanks.
Can we give a shout out to the studio? What's
Sure.
the name of this? What's the name of the studio?
It's Mass Inbound,
Mass
down
Inbound.
West Palm Beach.
Yeah, this is a really nice studio.
Yep.
It's a great setup,
The
and
staff is great.
yeah, no outside noise interference. Anything.
No.
It's nice. It's very comfortable
In
too.
the staff, we have our guy Ty doing, the
Yeah.
production part, phenomenal. Kobe, he's very attentive. He's on the emails and he tells me, it's great. I'm meeting with him after. So.
I've seen some of the production that comes out of here
Oh
too.
yeah,
Yeah,
oh,
I
awesome. Yeah,
saw. Ashley's Armenians episode.
Oh,
that you
she
did
was
with
phenomenal.
her.
She's great.
Yeah, so it's
Solid.
everything looked really good and
Yeah.
sounded really
Yeah,
good.
solid. Yeah, I'm on a mission, man.
Yeah.
I'm on a total mission to bring who I feel is just doing their job well, and they're using not only their intellect, but they're also their gift, the gift that you guys all have. Very grateful.
And I want to thank you for having me. It really means a lot to me anytime I get invited anywhere for things
Yeah,
like this.
yeah.
It really is like a big deal. I never assume that I'm going to get invitations to things. So when I get invited to participate in something like this, it means a lot to me. And thank you so much for having me. I think that you were great, and this was like a lot of fun. I'm glad we did it.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Hey, everybody, peace and love. Until next time.